Okay, continuing with our lesson, now we're talking about stem and leaf plots. A stem and leaf plot is a way of organizing and displaying data using the digits of the data values. The last digit of the data is called the leaf, and the first digit or digits is the stem. There's always going to be a key that will explain what the stem and leaves represent. Stem and leaf plots are useful in showing how data values are distributed. So let's look at example number 4. The stem and leaf plot to the left shows the scores of a football team in each of their games last season. Use it to answer the following questions. So A, find the mean, median, mode, and range. So we've got to find a lot of things this time. So first, let's start with the mean. We know we need to add everything up. And the way I like to add everything up with stem and leaf plots is by these rows. Okay? So I know that this right here represents 0, and this right here represents 3. So kind of like when I look at this key, I know that represents a 1 and a 2, and that represents 12 points. Like this right here would be 12 points. This right here would be 13 points. And this right here would be 14 points. So when there's a 0 in the stem, that just means I don't have a tens place. I just have the ones place. So 3 plus 6, that's going to be 9. Okay, moving on to our next row though. I've got 12 plus 13 plus 14. The way I like to do this is I know I'm going to have 3 sets of 10. Got 10, 10, and 10. Right? So that's 30. But I also have 2 plus 3 plus 4. Well, 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 4 is 9, so that's 39. And if you don't believe me or if you don't like doing it this way, you can always use your calculator. So in this next row, I've got 21 plus 21 plus 24 plus 24. And when I put that, oh, and I think there's a 28, yep. There's actually 28 too. But when I put 21 plus 21 plus 24 plus 24 plus 28 into my calculator, I get 118. Okay, moving on to our next row right here. 30 plus 3 times 35 plus 38. When I put that into my calculator, I get 173. And finally, my last row is 45. So I'm just going to add up these 5 numbers. 9 plus 39 plus 118 plus 173 plus 45. And when I add up those numbers, I get 384. So to find the mean, I start with 384. Now I need to divide it by the number of terms in the data set. And I can see pretty easily there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 data points. 384 divided by 16, when I put that into my calculator, I get 24 exactly. So that right there is my mean. Now let's talk about the median. The median, remember, is the number in the middle of the data. So I'm just going to work my way towards the center. So I'm going to mark off this 3 and this 45, 6, 38, 12, 35, 13, 35, 14, 35, 21, 30, 21, 28, and I'm left with 2 data points in the middle, but they're the same, so 24, I know, is my median. Okay, now let's talk about the mode. The mode is the number that occurs most often. So when I look at this data, what I see is that I have 3 35s. So that means that my mode is 35. I don't have 3 of any other number. And finally, the range. To find the range, remember, we're going to take our biggest data point, 45, and subtract our smallest, which is 3. 45 minus 3 is 42. So that right there is our range. Now, in how many games did the team score less than 14 points? So that's key, less than 14 points. That means that 14 is not included, okay? So I can't include this point right here, but I can include 3 points, 6 points, 12 points, and 13 points. So 4 games. Okay, next, how many games did this team score at least 35 points? So at least means that 35 is included. So I can include this point, and this point, as well as this point. 38 is more than 35, and 45. And when I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 games is how many games that they scored at least 35 points. Okay, moving on to constructing a stem and leaf plot, making it on your own. Step 1 is to order the data. And remember, you want to order it from least to greatest, from smallest to biggest. Step 2 is to identify the stems and leaves. Then fill out the data table. So we've got the weight in pounds of 15 dogs. So I know I need to put it in order first. So I'm looking, is there any other single digits besides that 9? Nope, that's the only one. So we're starting with that, okay? So now I'm gonna look for anything in the teens. So I see 19 and 16, nothing else. Well, which one comes first? 16. So 16 and then 19. And I like to cross them off as I use them so I know not to look at those again. Now I'm looking for anything with a 2 in the front. So I've got 25, and that's the only one. So 25 comes next, cross it off. Now I'm looking for anything with a 3 in the front. So I see 34, 30, 38, 34. Okay, so 30 has to come first. Then I've got a 34. And I think I had a second 34. I did. And then finally a 38. Okay, I think that's all of my 30s. It is. So now let's look at anything that has a 4 in the front. So right off the bat, I've got a 40. So I know that has to go first. So I've got a 45, a 42, another 42, and a 48. So 42 has to come next. I've got 2 of those. Then my 45. And finally my 48. Okay, lastly, I have a 52 and a 56. They're the last ones left. So 52 comes first and 56 next. So now I have ordered our data from smallest to biggest. So let's identify the minimum value. Actually, nope, let's construct our stem and leaf plot first before we answer the questions, y'all. Okay, so I'm just going to start right here. Well, our ones digit is a 9. That means our tens digit is a 0. So 0 is going to be my stem, or my stem, sorry. Now I've got these 2 right here that both have 1s in the front, 1s in the tens place. So 1 is my stem. For this one right here, 2 will be the stem. For these right here, They all have a 3 in front, so 3 is going to be the stem. These all have a 4 in the front, so 4 will be the stem. And for these right here, 5 will be the stem. So now that I know what my stems are, I can just write them down. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now let's add our leaves. So we've got 9, 6, and 9, 5, 0, 4, 4, 8, 0, 2, 2, 5, 8, and finally 2 and 6. Okay, so we have built our stem and leaf plot. Let's identify the minimum value. So the minimum value is easy to see, it's 9. Now we're going to identify the maximum value. The maximum value is the biggest one, it's 56. Finally, identify any trend that you see in the data. So what I would say is that a lot of the data is concentrated 30, 40, and 50s. So there aren't a whole lot of smaller dogs that are 25 pounds or less. So in this data set, there aren't many small dogs. And that's just in this data set. It doesn't mean in the world. Just in this data set, there aren't many small dogs. Okay, moving on to number 6. The back-to-back stem and leaf plot below shows Jack and Lily's math grades. Use the plot to answer the following questions. How does Jack's mean score compare to Lily's mean score? Okay, so the way I read this, like a normal stem and leaf plot, but I've got 2 sides. So look closely at this key right here. So I read this part right here as 72, but I read this part right here as 70. Okay, so keep that in mind. So for A, we need to compare Jack's mean to Lily's mean. So that means that we're going to need to find the average. We're going to need to add everything up. So we know that Jack has a 50, a 53, and a 58. And I know that when I add all of those together, that is a 161. He also has a 61 here. He has a 70. He has an 89 and an 87. And when I add those together, I get 176. He has a 90, a 91, a 93, and a 94. When I add those together, I get 368. And finally, he has a 100. Okay, so I'm going to add these numbers together. 161 plus 61 plus 70 plus 176 plus 368 plus 100. And when I add all those together, I end up with 936. Now I'm going to divide 936 by the number of scores that were reported. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm dividing 936 by 12. And when I put that into my calculator, I find that his mean is 78. Okay, now let's look at Lily. On the other side of the table. So she's got a 54 in the first row. She's got a 62 plus a 64 plus a 65. In the second row, when I add those together, I get 191. Then she has a 70, a 76, a 78, and a 78. Added together, that's 302. And finally, she has an 82, an 85, an 85, and an 87. Added together, that is 339. Okay, so I'm going to add those four numbers together, 54, 191, 302, and 339. And when I add those four numbers together, I get 886. And I just want to make sure that there are also 12 data points here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12. So 886 divided by 12, when I put that into my calculator, I get 73.83 repeating. So, how does Jack's mean score compare to Lily's mean score? Well, I think it's very clear that Lily has a lower average. Okay. Now B, how does Jack's median score compare to Lily's median score? This time we got to find the median for each of them. So let's start with Jack. We're starting with our smallest value, 50, and our biggest value, 100, and we're going to work our way towards the center. Okay, and I get to these two data values in the middle, 89 and 87. And I know I need to add those together and divide by 2. And when I do that, I get 88. So I know that Jack's median is an 88. Okay, now let's find Lily's median. Okay, so we start by crossing off the smallest and the biggest, and we work our way towards the center. And I'm left with those two values in the middle, 76 and 78. Well, when I add those together and divide by 2, I end up with 77. Okay, so 77 is Lily's median score and 88 is Jack's. So how do they compare? Well, I would say that Jack's median is much higher. It's 11 points higher than Lily's. That is the end of our notes for today. Y'all work on your homework.